Riley was standing outside the school waiting for his best friend Logan. Logan and Riley had made plans to go to the arcade to play some games for a few hours. They had known each other since elementary. Not only they saw each other as best friends, but they saw each other like brothers. They were always there for each other, no matter what happens. They always kept each other's secrets. And as he was standing there, he heard a voice. "Hey, buddy, have you been waiting long?" He turned around and saw it was Logan, who just left the school building. Not that long, probably 10 minutes, he said by watching his watch. "Are you ready to head out to the arcades?" "Sure am, buddy," said Logan with a smile. They both left the school property and went downtown. It took about 20 minutes for them to just walk down there. As they were walking, they were just small talk about random stuff, when suddenly Logan brought up the topic of Jane. Jane was actually Riley's girlfriend for the past year and a half. "So, any plans for the weekend to hang out with, Jane?" Uh, I did ask her, but she was having other plans for the weekend. "Oh, let me guess. Amy?" "Yeah, I mean, she already wants to spend time with her best friend this weekend, which I don't mind. So, but I'm still talking about Jane. Are you thinking of, proposing to her sometimes after high school, perhaps even during college?" Um, the thought of that actually crossed my mind. I probably would propose to her, perhaps during my first or second year of college. "Oh, that makes sense," said Logan. By the way, are you still going to take the business classes at the college?" "Well, yeah. I mean, since I am the heir to my family's company, so why wouldn't I?" "Yeah, that makes sense." Riley was the heir to a large IT company that's called Solar IT Incorporated. It was his. He would be the third generation to take over the company. It was his grandfather who started the company years ago. Currently, his father is the president and the CEO of the company. And since his father has strong hopes that Riley would take over the company one day when his father retires. But in order to do that, he wanted to have his son to study business at college, or at least university, so that he could at least understand the grasp of how to run a business. Which, even though Riley at young age, when he was still in middle school and in the first year of high school, he didn't want to even run the company at all. He wanted to do something else. But after realizing how important the company were for his family, and so he changed his mind. And Jane, of all that, she was very happy when Riley asked her out about a year and a half ago to be her boyfriend. They had known each other since middle school, so they had known each other for a few years. And she was actually very happy when he asked her out, though. And as Logan and Riley arrived to the arcade, they just went in and started playing some games. They didn't talk much more about Jane or the future, but just enjoying the games. But after a few hours, it was about time for both of them to just head home. But since Riley didn't have his own car this time, since his car was actually in for some repairs, and Logan didn't even have a car at the moment. So Riley called for one of his family's private cars to take him and Logan home. Logan was not only his best friend, his father was also part of a wealthy family. Logan's own dad owned his real estate company in town, so he wasn't that well off either. But it was just something else about things that would eventually change for Riley's life for much different aspects. After he came home, he had a dinner with his family as normal. He called up Jane and they talked a little bit. And since this was a Friday, he just wished her good night and had hoped that she have a good weekend with Amy. That weekend, since Logan himself was going to be busy with his family, Riley called up Annie. Annie was another old friend of his. They didn't also know each other since elementary school. Hey, Annie, do you have a moment? Yeah, Riley, what's up? Um, I had to ask you for a small favor. Uh, that depends on what kind of favor you want to have. Come on. What kind of guy do you think I am? Said Riley with a laugh. I know, just teasing you. So, what's up? Do you have any plans for the weekend? No, I don't think so. I thought you were going to hang out with, I don't know, Logan or Jane. Uh, Jane had other plans and Logan the same, so I'm actually free the whole weekend. Yeah, I mean, we can always go see a movie if you want to. Great. I mean, we'll do this as always when it's like we were growing up. Yeah. Um, the movie theaters at the mall around 4 p.m. Sure. So the next day, most of during the day, Riley took care of some things at home, rather read some books, play some games, and then he drove off to the mall where he met up Annie. Hey, I hope you didn't wait for long. No, not really. I saw you drove your own car. Yeah, I actually got it back earlier today, which was a good thing, otherwise I didn't know what to do, he said with a laugh. They paid for their tickets and went inside. They were just watching an action movies, and when they left the movie theaters around maybe an hour and a half later, they saw someone. They saw they saw someone in the mall, and it was Jane and Amy. Jane was a little bit surprised to see him there, to see her boyfriend at the mall with some other girl. And at first she thought that he was cheating, but then he immediately recognized it was Annie, and she didn't have to worry because she knows that Annie doesn't like him as a friend, nothing more. They just had a small conversation before Jane and Amy had to walk off. And that same next week at the school, when Riley was by his locker just preparing for the first class, he heard a voice behind him, and when he turned around, it was Jane. Hi, sweetie, she said with a big smile. Oh, hey, Jane. How was your weekend with Amy? It was great, actually. I mean, I never expected to see you there with Annie. Well, I mean, I didn't have any plans, and she was the one who suggested to see this action movie, and, I mean, since you were busy, Logan was busy, and I called her and just asked if she was up for it or something, and then, yeah, by the way, are we still going out for, this weekend? Yeah, I mean, if you still want to, of course. Then she gave him a kiss on the cheek and walked off. Riley went to his classes as normal. But there was around lunch break after he finished his lunch with Logan and Annie. He would just want to use the restroom before the first class. But after he left the restroom, he heard two people talking in the hallway, and he immediately recognized the voices. Amy and Jane. He was about to walk around the corner to greet her, but when he stopped, he heard something that really took him off guard. Something he never even imagined what Jane would even say about him. It is amazing that you and Riley have been together for a year and a half by now. Yeah, it has been a while, said Jane. I mean, do you even love Riley at all? Of course I don't, said Jane. I only like him for his money. I mean, his family company makes $4 billion in profit in each year. When I found out he was the heir of a big company, I was like, if I could have him as a boyfriend, I could have access to as much money I wanted. I could always make him to buy me some stuff that I wanted to, like purses, clothes, and even one day when I would get married with him, I will have much more money I can spend as much I wanted. I can even have Warner has even multiple guys at his side. Just have to have fun with. You're really crazy, but do you think that can actually work? I mean, what if people find out? He probably won't even that at all. He probably would be will probably so busy with his family's company. He probably had to stay in a lot of, you know, overnight meetings and even a lot of business trips, and he wouldn't even be at home as much. And and after being married for maybe 2 or 3 years, I probably would just apply for a divorce, which means me that I will have at least half of his rightful money. Yep, but what if we want to start a family though with it at that time? Asked Amy. Oh, I will just tell him that I'm not ready to start a family yet, or I just know I wasn't even get pregnant at the time. That type of things. Wow, I mean, it seems you have planned out that all far ahead, or haven't you? Asked Amy. Well, yeah, I mean, of course I wouldn't. Who wouldn't though? Said Jane. And and Riley, when he'd been hearing this, he couldn't believe it. He genuinely believed that Jane actually loved him, no matter what. Despite he was a very rich family, or if he was from a working class family, he couldn't believe it. In fact, he was planning to actually to propose to her in his first year of high school, college, but he couldn't believe it. After all this, he couldn't believe it. He stood there, silent, and after only a while, he heard them both, Amy and Jane, walk off. After they couldn't hear him anymore, he peeked around the corner and saw they were gone. Riley was furious and heartbroken. He had genuinely believed that Jane was a true gold-hearted person, but it turned out she was a complete cold, hard, rotten person. All she wanted and that she cared about was money, money, and to make things that she wanted to buy. She was using him as her personal ATM machine, which made him really furious. After school was over, he went home and he couldn't believe it. When he was in his room, laying on the bed, thinking of what to do next. So, he asked for he wanted to ask someone for advice. And he decided to call Annie. Hey, Riley, what's up? Hey, Annie, can I talk to you? Yeah, is something wrong? You don't sound happy for some reason. Has something happened? Oh, you have no idea what happened, he said. And then he started to explain everything what he heard what Jane said at school. After he finished, Annie was silent for only a brief moment before she said, how dare she even do that? I mean, you're such a genuine, true, honest guy. I mean, if I was your girlfriend, I wouldn't even care if you were rich or poor or anything. I will love you for your heart, for your true act, for who you are, not because of your wealth. I can't believe it, she said. Same here. I mean, I have no idea. And she had been doing this for a year and a half, apparently. So, what are you going to do? I have no idea. I mean, even my parents was just happy when I introduced her to them, and they expected me to get married with her. But I don't think that I'm not going to even do that at all. I mean, before he could say anything, Annie cut him off and said, you don't marry her. Whatever you do, you don't. If you do, like you said what she would do, she likely will. Believe me. Yeah, I'll probably tell my parents after this at dinner tonight. Well, I hope for the best though. But when are you to call off your relationship with her? Um, Probably tomorrow. Oh, okay. But wait, didn't you actually reserve, you know, a, um, a restaurant, an expensive one for you two for your dinner on this weekend? Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, I will definitely call it off and cancel it. Oh, probably for the best. That time during dinner, Rai's parents noticed that he didn't seem to be in his normal self. And his father was like, "Son, what's the matter?" "It's something happened at school." "What happened at school, sweetie?" asked his mom. "Well, it's it's a bit a long story, but I will try to make it brief as possible. You all know about my girlfriend Jane, right?" "Yeah, she's a sweet girl." "Well, I wouldn't say sweet, Mom. I would say more as cold, rotten person." "How dare you?" "Mom, before you even say, I will explain." And then he explained everything once again to his parents. His mom was stunned, and his dad was red in his face of pure anger. "Nobody treats my son with any of this, especially after my family's company's money like that. My father, your grandfather, started his company as a small business. If he was here right this time, he would have been furious as me," he said, almost screaming. "You better call it off." "Oh yeah, I'm definitely calling off, Dad. You can bet on that." But the next day, Riley was standing in his locker when his best friend Logan showed up. "Hey, buddy!" "Oh, hey, Logan." "Oh, what did you do? What did you eat so sour?" Um, you know, I didn't eat anything, but I heard something." "Oh boy, tell me, buddy, what is it?" "Well, the thing is," and then he explained a third time, now this with Logan, and after he was finished, Logan was just stood there stunned, and he's like his jaw dropped, like, "Wait, what?" "Yep, that's what she said. And do you believe me?" "Well, yeah, I mean, you're my oldest friend. Why wouldn't I believe you?" "Who else have you told?" "My parents, Annie, and of course you. That's all I can say." "Oh, did you see her anywhere?" "I think she is actually by her locker with Amy at the moment." "You need me to you want my company to follow you?" "Ah, I appreciate it if you did." "Sure, sure, buddy." So they went to Jane's locker. When she saw him, she smiled and was about to walk up to him and give him a hug, but he stopped her and said, "Jane, we need to talk." Okay, what is it?" "We're done." "Wait, what?" "I know what you've been doing." What do you mean?" "I know you're using me as your personal ATM machine, that you're only using me because I was rich, isn't it?" "Corson, it's no lie. I heard you." "What?" "I heard you and Amy talking yesterday in the hallway." "Wait, you did?" "Yes. And in fact, Jane, I couldn't believe it. You know, I was even considered to propose to you in my first year of college. But that is not happening anymore. Oh, another thing. The dinner we were planning to have this weekend, I canceled our reservations." "No, you did? Why?" "Well, then Logan stepped in and said, 'It's because you have been lying to him the whole time, using him.' And other students were actually present in the hallways and by the lockers and turned around and saw this commotion happening. And Jane saw this and tried to act as nothing had happened and tried to tell Riley if they could go somewhere else to talk, but he said, 'No, I want everyone to know who you are. You are not such a sweet girl as you play as. You're a complete raw, cold-hearted, rotten person.'" "Hey, don't tell my friend like that. And you're the same, Amy," he said angrily. "I thought you were her best friend of all. And you agree with her? You don't even try to stop her? You're as equal guilty as her. And the other things, Jane." "Yeah? Those things that you bought with my money? The purses, clothes, and all that?" Yeah," she said, almost scared. She was expecting that he was the man to have all the things back. "You can keep them." "Wait, what?" Keep them as a memory of our past relationship, or throw them away or sell them if you want. I don't even care. I don't even want them back. You bought them from with my money, of course, but don't expect me ever again. And you believe I think might believe I'm going to forgive you one day. Oh no! After this, after lying to me for over a year and a half, no, I'm not going to. Then he turned around before he could say anything. Before she could say anything, Logan turned around and said, "It's pointless. He won't ever listen to any of your words because he knows you're a liar." People, listen. She is a liar. She only used you for your money, so don't even try to be with her or Amy, Logan said loudly to people that were standing around. After that, Amy and Jane could see that people were actually talking or almost like whisper, and they're like, "Could you believe it? She actually just used it for his money." Yeah, I cannot even believe it. Some of the girls who actually knew Jane apparently said, "I thought I knew her well enough, but this is something completely." Yeah, I mean, I should not even be around here anymore. I mean, I know not for this since middle school, but this is complete worse. I'm staying away from her. She's only probably used me for my money as well. Same here. But that by the end of the day, Jane and Amy had been complete outcasts of the high school. Everyone that she knew as their friends abandoned her. They literally just put her aside like an outcast. And even though that it was her own fault, and did Riley feel any guilt? No, he didn't. Because he loved her truly. But after he found out what she'd been doing to him for over a year and a half by using his family's company's money in order to just buy things that she wanted, she couldn't believe it. But after nearly a couple of weeks after all this happened, after this breakup, things had calmed down at least, but Riley was still heartbroken. He was just considered to simply drop out of high school entirely and become shut-in person. But there was two people that prevented it from happening. Annie and Logan. But during one time after school, Riley walked home with Annie. They just small talked, and the topic of Jane came up. "I can't believe what she did to you." Yeah, those weeks has been a complete nightmare. I mean, I even told her family, was especially her parents, about this, and I don't tell you, they were equally shocked. They had no idea how she could even turn out like this. They grounded her for I think it was until she finished high school. Wow, that long? Yeah, and it's like what, 3, 4 months away. So she is gonna be grounded for 4 months or so, and her allowance, well, they have from I heard from a mutual friend, they stopped giving her her allowance, and Amy, well, I think she had the same punishment as Jane. I mean, good figures, and I mean, I don't blame you to even find out about it. I mean, what if you actually did propose and you even marry her? Ugh, now that is a thought I wouldn't even want to thought of, said Riley. I just wish that I could find someone else to be with. Someone who's genuine, true, honest, funny person. I mean, like you, Annie. But like me? But why me? Annie asked. If I had to be real honest here, it's because I have a crush on you ever since elementary school. Really? Yeah, I did. Even though I was like 8 or 9 years old, and even back then I didn't know exactly if those love feelings or just through friends or something. But I had to admit, even though when I was with Jane, every time I spent time with you, when I was still dating her, I actually had realized I had strong feelings for you. But not knowing now what to do, after I found out how what kind of person Jane were, I came to realize you are my true soulmate. And if you would like to go out with me, he asked. Annie didn't have no words because it took her as much as speechless, and she just looked down the ground as they were walking. But then he said, I understand. If you don't, I would like that. Are you sure? Positive. I mean, you've always been there for me, even though you were with Jane at the time. You always helped me with my homeworks, and every time when I was heartbroken, especially when my grandmother passed away, you always helped me. You were always there to cheer me up and even everything. Yeah. So they decided to go out on a date that same weekend. At first, when he suggested they should go to this expensive restaurant in town, at first Annie was hesitant to even want to go because she didn't want to have him to spend that much money in order to do so. But in the end, she agreed. They they actually went to this restaurant which belonged to a friend to his family. And even after their dinner, both had to realize they were actually really so in love with each other because even before then they didn't know if their feelings was true or not. But after having such good time at the restaurant, they realized they just couldn't believe it. They loved each other so deeply. And even after just one date, they made it official. When when Riley told his parents about this, they were just overjoyed because they knew how the type of girl Annie were, and they loved her. And in fact, even though Riley's own mom has said that she saw Annie as a potential daughter-in-law even before he ended up dating Jane. And he first believed that she was just joking about it. But apparently she wasn't. For some reason she couldn't explain it. But somehow she had a sense that Annie had such deep feeling for Riley, even before even Riley realized it himself later on though. Even by the next week, when Riley and Annie went to school, Riley had told Logan about his relationship with Annie, and he was actually not surprised because he somehow had the feeling this could happen. But when Annie and Riley walked into school holding hands, other students saw them and they were just sharing and said, some even yelled out, "Good luck, Riley, you hit the jackpot. Keep her well to you." He smiled and nodded and said that he would, because he would treasure her no matter what. And when he passed by Jane and Amy, he didn't even look at them, but Annie made a brief look at Jane, who looked not mad, she looked just sad. Realized what kind of person she did that she ruined her chance for a good future. If she hadn't even done that, Riley would have still been with Jane if she wouldn't have had such cold-hearted personality. And the rest of the school year, that was until they both finished high school, Riley went to one college where he studied business in order to take over his family business one day. Jane, well, or at least Annie, she wanted to be a doctor one day. So she went to a different state for medical school, and during the holiday breaks, they only met up at their hometown. But after both had finished college, they were happy. Because shortly afterwards, Riley proposed to Annie and she said yes. They even had this big wedding which they invited all their friends from the high school. Even when even when Annie suggested they should invite Jane and Amy, Logan at first was like, "What? Why are you want to invite them?" According to what Annie found out about Jane and Amy, they totally had regretted their mistakes. And during the time when they were in college, they didn't went to college themselves, but they started working and had made an honest living. In fact, Jane had actually approached Annie and asked for forgiveness, and Annie, she forgave her. And somehow, Annie and Jane and Amy actually had become friends. They were actually her maid of honors. At least Jane was Annie's maid of honor at the wedding. Of course, who wasn't the best man of the wedding other than Logan. Even when Riley was told about Jane and Amy going to be invited, he wasn't happy first. But after a while, he agreed. And he came to realize and even to see how much change they had done. Another small fact is that both Amy and Jane actually had a boyfriend or even a fiance at the time. And Riley just told both of them to have a good future and hope that all the best for good luck and happiness in the future. Which Jane thanked them and forgave them for what she did towards him. And he did forgive her. Annie and Riley went to Hawaii for their honeymoon, which was like a gift from Riley's parents. They were there for about 2 weeks and just had a great time. After they came back, they were just happy to be married. And 2 years after they got married, they were told they were expecting their first child, a boy, which they later named Justin. At the time around their first son, Justin, was born, Riley took over Solar IT Incorporated from his father, which kind of actually not wasn't had become Riley's like advisor. And just about 3 years after Justin was born, Annie and Riley was told they were expecting their second child, but later found out it wasn't just one, but was twins, a boy and a girl. And they named the girl Anna and the boy Michael. Annie couldn't have been happier to have three beloved children with her beloved husband. Even Riley himself, despite what he went through in the senior year of high school, what his ex did to him, how it could have ruined his life, it could have ruined his happiness if he did end up marrying her in the future. But in the end, he didn't. At first, he regretted to even have been with her. But after he saw her at his own wedding, to see how she was actually had totally regretted her personality of her behavior back then, to see how she was deeply affected itself, he was just happy that both Amy and Jane had moved on, regretted their past and moved on and found their own happiness. Even Annie herself was just happy for it as well. Even though that Annie herself was really at first hesitated to even forgive Jane and Amy. But after seeing how much they were affected by this, how their actions affected their future, but after seeing how they really was so regretful what they did, they were just happy. And this is how Annie and Riley found a true love, got a big family together. The end.